All right, guys, so we are now on chapter 11. We will be talking about Rome. I have never personally been there before, but I've always wanted to go. All the pictures always look so beautiful, and there's so many cool things to look at. So let's take a look at some things we need to know. So one, Rome is a city in Italy. Italy is shaped like a boot. If you look on the map right here, this light yellow is Italy. And it also kind of looks like a boot with a really high heel. So it's really easy to identify. Rome is also known as the Apennine Peninsula. So Italy can be called Italy or the Apennine Peninsula. Also, there are 3 seas that surround Italy. The Adriatic Sea, which is to the right of Italy. And then we have the Tyrrhenian Sea, which is right kind of above the toes of the boot. And then we have the Mediterranean Sea that is right below the Tyrrhenian Sea. Next, we have 2 important mountains that we need to know that are in Italy. One, we have the Alps, which are the most famous mountains around. You might have heard of them before, but they are also the largest mountain system in Europe, which is pretty cool. And there's a picture of the Alps. It's so beautiful. And then you have the Apennines, which is a chain of mountains that run all the way down Italy. So it's kind of like the Great Wall of China, but for mountains and for Italy. Next, we have 2 rivers. The first river is Po River, and it's the longest river. It begins at the Alp Mountains, which is kind of towards the top of Italy, and runs all the way down to the Adriatic Sea. If you guys remember back to our map, the Adriatic Sea was to the right of Italy. And also the Po River is also known for fertilizing Po Valley. And Po Valley is the farmland of Italy. And it produces all the crops and everything for Italy. Kind of like how Salinas is kind of like provides all the crops and vegetables and fruit for the United States. That's kind of what the Po Valley is for Italy. And then next we have the Tiber River, not the Tiger, the Tiber. And it begins in central Italy, and then it flows all the way down to the Tyrrhenian Sea. Remember, the Tyrrhenian Sea is the sea that's kind of towards the toes of Italy. All right, now we're moving on to 11.2. Don't be upsetty, eat some spaghetti. Because, we're in Italy, Rome, no? Okay. Well, first we're going to talk about the people that kind of started and created Italy. So the first type of people is we have the Italies. They settled in the Apennine around 1000 BC, and Italy was actually named after them. So I thought that GIF was pretty funny because they're like, mine, mine, mine. Italy wouldn't be anything because of me. So I thought that was funny. No? Okay. Next we have the Latins. They settled near the Tiber River and built Rome. So they're kind of a really important people. And then the language that was later used by the Romans themselves was actually Latin. So the Latins were actually kind of important. They kind of helped build the Romans up. Next, we have the Etruscans, and they were actually very strong and powerful. They also settled near the Tiber River, but it wasn't until 800 BC that they did so. They also built the first cities in Italy, and some of them are actually still there today, so that's pretty cool. Can you imagine going there and seeing buildings that were built in 800 BC? I mean, that is thousands and thousands of years ago. Pretty cool. And the last people we have are Greeks. I know when I think of Greeks, or even Greek food, I think of gyros, like those little tortilla sandwiches. And then I think of the movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and that movie. If you haven't seen it, it's really funny. But anyways, the Greeks actually began building colonies in southern Italy and nearby the island of Sicily. So they actually, Sicily, and they actually started building all these colonies and helped kind of create all of those towns and counties and all that stuff that you would think of today in Italy. Now, there's a few things we need to know about Romans and Greeks, and there's some big differences. Romans were very black and white. They were very practical. They thought that it was this way, it should be this way, no ands, ifs, or buts about it. But we had the Greeks, and they were very fancy people. They were known as the Greater Greece. They kind of like the upper class. Romans were kind of the middle class people, and Greeks were the upper class. Romans, when they built their buildings and their homes and their cities, they built them with brick, which is very cheap, which made them able to build more buildings, and it was kind of more practical. But Greeks, on the other hand, they spent money and time just chiseling away in stone and rock to make these buildings. And yes, they were beautiful, like all those little stone statues that you see of Greek gods and stuff. But I mean, it takes so much time and so much money. So those are some differences between Romans and Greeks. Romans were very practical and were very reasonable, where Greeks kind of were showy off and did all these big spectacular things. But with that being said, the Romans actually copied the Greeks in art and who they worshipped as gods. And the Greeks, they worshipped some gods that you might know of that you wouldn't consider being gods: Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, Neptune, and even Venus. So isn't that pretty funny, though, that we see or we hear these names and we automatically think planets, but back in the day, they were gods that the Greeks used to worship. All right, that is it for now. So I will get back to you guys when we get to 11.3. All right, bye-bye.